They came from the toughest neighborhoods of Toronto, lured to Alberta, the promised land of money and jobs. But for too many young Somali-Canadian men, it's where they came to die.
31 bodies? Is that normal? Unsolved?
This is the story of one of those young men.
Then they said, Abdinasir is dead. I said, what? Abdinasir is dead.
It's the story of one family and a Canadian dream gone very wrong.
We know the person that shot, that pulled the trigger.
What happened when you roll through my hood? Start from left to right, nigga.
It's something not gonna be nice. Not gonna be nice at all.
You gon' get it, nigga.
Tonight is a perfect night of fight. Here I come. Grim Reapers patrolling the lands of lost souls. Come see and witness many faces I stretch. A lyrical homicide. Faces of death. Here's a brief teaser. Take a look. Her name is Lisa. Third degree burns. Apartment fires the reason. And though they fought hard, trying to save her life, Grim Reaper control everything that night. Dragons breath from the window 30, 40 feet high. Lisa might as well jump. Either way, she's gotta die. Oh, but this girl's a chief and used to run in her gang. Faces of death. KJ, free. Faces of death.
Good evening, I'm Gillian Findlay. The young man's name is Abdinasir Dirie, and these are the streets where he grew up. By all accounts, he should have been a Canadian success story. He was bright, educated, motivated to succeed. But instead, Abdinasir Dirie is dead, one of dozens of young men from this community who went west looking for opportunity and who never returned. What happened and why are questions that 6 months later, his family still has no answers to. Tonight, we'll take you inside their story, deep inside a community and a world that most Canadians have never seen before. Like many Somali immigrants, their story begins in violence. In the 1990s, warlords ruled Somalia, and as battles for power intensified, no one was safe. As the fighting spread, parents who could picked up their children and fled. Among them, schoolteacher Abdulkader Ali.
It was civil war. It's very bad civil war at that time. The civil war is the bombshell and everything is too much problem. And we ran away from homes. We left over there and we came here and, to escape our life to anywhere in the world.
After stops in Dubai and New York, they joined the stream of Somalis finding refuge here in the public housing neighborhoods of northwest Toronto. Tell me about your decision to come to Canada. Why did you choose Canada?
Canada, I come to Canada. Canada is a safe place.
Fadoumo Dirie was Abdulkader's wife. They would eventually separate, but not before their family expanded.
This is Abdinasir. For the time he's in grade 4.
Of their 5 children, it was Abdinasir, her middle son, that she was closest to. The first to be born in Canada, he embodied all the sacrifices, all the hopes and dreams.
And I come here, and I'm safe because I'm working. I find the education, and my kids, they find the education.
In his mother's house, education was important, and Abdinasir, G-Baby as they called him, did well. Sweet-looking and chubby, he was the kind of kid who could speak his mind and get away with it, even in a tough neighborhood.
Because he's my brother, I hate him sometimes because of the things he says or does.
Iman Ali, Abdinasir's older sister.
In other people's eyes, he's the little cute little G-Baby. He's so cute, he's so outgoing, outspoken. He says things that will piss you off, but then you always laugh about it because you can't take things like him, you won't take him in.
And make no mistake, Jamestown Crescent is tough. Do Tombstown, they call it, a place where a police officer can find a snake planted in his cruiser, and where raids are commonplace. Drugs, gangs, guns, it's all here. And for Fadumo, a single parent working several jobs as a cleaner, it's been a struggle.
I know I'm tired because I'm working the hard job, because scrubbing, mopping, cleaning. I come home, I'm so tired.
Growing up, I guess she didn't have a lot of people helping her, especially my dad. And we moved to Jamestown, and then she decided she didn't want to clean no more. So she went to school, and she graduated, and then she became a nurse.
It's that kind of drive that people who knew him say Abdinasir inherited. Hoda Muhammad, a neighbor and a friend.
He was very smart, humble, nice, but he was also determined to do the best and stay on top. He didn't want to be number 2, he always wanted to be number 1.
That was clear on the basketball court. Despite his small size, he's remembered as a more than decent point guard. A kid his coach says sometimes needed reminding that he didn't have to be the tough guy all the time.
He was a very good person. At the same time, the area that he grew up, he had to be tough. So I had to talk to him about that. You know, he can just lay off and be relaxed when he's here. You know, and he can have a good friends in this program.
Like a lot of kids of immigrant families, Abdinasir straddled 2 worlds. At home, he was the doting son, expected to work hard and succeed. But then there was that other, bigger world outside his door. For young, ambitious men, Jamestown Crescent is full of diversions and temptations. By the time Abdinasir reached high school, he was running with a different crowd.
Friends changed him, and he just thought he was a thug.
You thought he was a thug?
Yeah.
What did he do that?
Just the way he dressed, the way he talked, the way he would move, the people he's with.
What do you think it was that attracted him to that?
The gang, the violence, I think.
He liked
the people. The people in Jamestown, it's mostly violent stuff. You would hear or see kids getting beat up or running around. It's not really good things. Robberies.
If he was involved, he never got caught. Instead, Abdinasir graduated and found a part-time job. But as the summer of 2009 approached, it was clear the hood had left its mark. His yearbook references are to local posses. SGC stands for Somali Gangsta Crips. He commemorates neighborhood kids who'd been killed. Abdinasir had talked about going to university after high school, but almost overnight, his sister says, his plans changed.
And I remember I asked him for $100 that day, and he said, no, I'm going to save this money, I'm going to buy a ticket and go to Alberta.
When we come back, a son heads west, and his sister disappears.
We started calling doctors, hospitals. It was to a point where maybe something tragic happened.
Fort McMurray, Alberta, black gold, and the age-old promise of fast, easy money. It was September 2009 when Abdinasir Dirie showed up here. He'd left Toronto without telling his parents. One of the few who did know was his sister-in-law, Hamda Jabril, who at the time lived in Edmonton.
He said, I'm gonna come up before I go to university. I wanna work a little bit, and after I work, I'm gonna probably go back home, give mom some money and go back to school.
But his timing couldn't have been worse. By that fall, the boom in Fort Mac was starting to bust. Jobs were scarce, especially, it seemed, if you were young and Somali.
When you come here, is all doors locked. You have to, for 3 to 4 months, you're gonna be hunting for jobs, resumes, everything. But most of the time, every door is shut down.
23-year-old Mahmoud Farah beat Abdinasir to Fort McMurray by a couple of years, but it still took him a long time to find even this job. Third cook isn't a bad gig, but it's a long way from the computer programming career he'd gone to college for.
I didn't know that was going to be the case, but the reason is there's always that stereotype that exists.
What do you mean, the stereotype?
Stereotype is if I call for a job, just because I don't have an accent, the woman will be like, okay, yes, the opportunity is still open, come. But when they see me, it's a totally different story. They'll tell me the job is filled.
For the kids from Toronto, the reception was always better here at Halima Hassan's kitchen. For years, she's been den mother to Fort McMurray's growing Somali population, providing free food and a bed while they look for work. Her daughter, Shukri, remembers the day Abdinasir walked in.
He was very polite, very respectful to his elders and everything.
And by all accounts, doing well. He always had money. Did Abdinasir pay for his food?
Yes, he did. He always did. He actually gave her a really good tip. he was a really good tipper.
But late in January, something happened. It was an RCMP raid on this apartment. Police found cash and cocaine. Among the 4 men they arrested and charged with trafficking was Abdinasir Dirie. Once again, sister-in-law Hamda was one of the few he told.
That was pretty shocking. And basically, he just said I was there at the wrong place at the wrong time.
The wrong place at the wrong time. That was his story, but he begged Hamda not to tell the rest of the family, even after he was out on bail. Back here in Toronto, his parents never learned of the drug charges, which is probably a good thing because by then they had another problem on their hands. Iman, Abdinasir's older sister, was missing. It was as if she just fell off the face of the earth. No one could find her. Pleas on her Facebook page to get in touch all went unanswered.
We didn't know what to think. Like, she's disappeared. We don't know where she is. We started calling doctors, hospitals. Like, it was to a point where maybe something tragic happened.
The last her family knew, Iman was also talking of going west to Edmonton. When she didn't show up there, police picked up the search. But one place police would never even think of looking was where Iman actually was, thousands of kilometers away in Jamaica. Unbeknownst to everyone, she and her friend Hoda had been offered an all-expenses-paid trip. The 2 girls from Jamestown jumped at it. And Jamaica is where we found them this summer.
I just want to go. I want to see how it feels to go on a plane.
You'd never been on a plane before?
For 21 years I lived in Canada, I never traveled.
It all happened quickly, they say. A friend approached them out of the blue with 2 tickets and a promise to pick up the tab.
And then we talked to the guy. We're like, are you serious that you would pay for our stuff? Give us everything that we want and bring us home safe? And he said yes.
He even arranged Iman's passport. And in early February, the 2 arrived in Montego Bay. Neither had told their parents.
I know for a fact my mom would say no to me. To Jamaica, what are you going to go do there? That's what everyone's going to think. You're a Somali girl in Jamaica? What? That's exactly what they're going to think.
Like their brothers, young Somali-Canadian women are also caught between 2 worlds. Canadian by birth with all the freedoms that implies, and yet still expected to abide by traditional values.
Iman did not get along with her mom and all of that. Me, I wasn't getting along with my mom. I felt like my family was just always looking down at me. So I moved out and I lived on my own, trying to do something productive with my life.
But that is what they now argue made them vulnerable to a friend with a plan. So some guy comes along and offers you a free trip?
Some guy comes along and offers us a big trip.
Are you really that naive to think that free trips just happen like that without...
Well, from a friend, I wouldn't think it's naive. He was a really good friend of ours.
But right from the beginning, things started to go wrong. The Montego Bay resort they'd been promised was replaced by a car trip to Kingston and bunking in with the Toronto man's family. They stuck it out for a week, but then on the drive back to the airport, there was a pit stop. A package appeared.
He's like, it's just fish. I just want you guys to take fish. It's nothing big.
Who were you supposed to take the fish to?
Back to Canada, to the guy.
To the guy who'd sent you?
The guy that sent us here.
The next thing they knew, there were new suitcases, and the packages of fish were hidden amongst their clothes.
We were wondering what the hell's going on, but it smelled like fish. So we're like, okay, this is just fish, let's just go home.
It wasn't going to be that easy. At the airport, there were police and sniffer dogs, and they smelled something else.
And they're like, come, let's go to the back and check it out. And we're like, okay, we just have fish, you know? And we're like, okay, we went to the back, got the bags, he opened it up, then he cut it open. You could see the fish. He cut open the fish and he's seen a brick. He cut inside the ceramic wrap and he pulled out some green stuff. And he said, look, what is this? And I looked at him and all I can remember is I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack or I was gonna faint. I had to leave.
But for Iman and Hoda, there would be no leaving. According to Jamaican police, those fish contained nearly 20 kilos of marijuana.
And we just started crying and crying and crying, and one of the officers couldn't do nothing about it. He was just like, you know what, girls? I think the best thing for you guys to do is just keep quiet and just relax. Even if you gotta call your parents, call your parents. We're like, nope, no parents.
For 2 long months, they sat in jail here. The Toronto man who sent them to Jamaica did hire them a lawyer who made it clear to them in no uncertain terms they were not to talk. And so they didn't, not to police, and they decided not even to their families. Back in Toronto, it seemed they'd simply disappear. And that's the way they wanted it. At least in Montego Bay's notorious Shreveport jail, they were safe. From the Toronto man, they now admit they knew sold drugs, and from his Jamaican accomplices. Could you identify these people if you had to, if you saw them?
If I saw them, yeah, I could. But I'd be afraid to, though. I would be afraid to. Only because my family's life could be at risk back home, and my life could be at risk down here because I don't have anybody down here.
After 8 weeks, their resolve finally broke. Iman was able to quietly answer one of those Facebook pleas her sister had been posting. 2 weeks later, her father was on a plane.
I would never in a million years think my dad would come to Jamaica and see me. When he came to see me, I just started crying. I couldn't hold my tears. Then he started crying, and that was the first time I seen my dad cry. And that's when I realized, okay, my dad's gonna slowly come in my life now.
And she said, my dad, I make mistake. I did a very bad mistake, and take me please out. I said, if I can't do that. But we will see what we can do.
Beyond posting bail and hiring a new lawyer, there wasn't much he could do. Until their trial, Iman and Hoda would have to stay in Montego Bay alone. He returned to Toronto. That night, the phone rang. There'd been a shooting.
Abdinasir is dead. I said, what? Abdinasir is dead. Where? In Alberta. No.
When we come back, Alberta's body count rises. 8 months after he'd left Toronto for Alberta, Abdinasir Dirie's family flew out to bury him.
31 bodies? Is that normal? Unsolved? Come on.
His murder in Fort McMurray was the latest in a deadly trend. In the last 5 years, more than 24 young Somali-Canadian men have been killed in Alberta. Not a single case has been solved. Why do you think somebody wanted Abdinasir dead?
They probably seen him as a threat. He was just a person that wasn't scared or intimidated by anybody.
What do you mean by that? And I want to know who did this to him, because he did not deserve that. He did not deserve that.
Why did he move out to Alberta? What was he looking for when he came out here?
I don't know, honestly. He was going to go see his family. All we know is...
Even today, people who knew Abdinasir are wary of talking publicly. But over months of research, we've pieced together details of his last months in Fort McMurray. From the beginning, the undertones were dark. For instance, we've learned more about that posse he mentioned in his yearbook, Somali Gangsta Crips. It wasn't a gang exactly, but many of the Jamestown kids who belonged to it had run-ins with police. Last summer, a group of them decided to travel to Fort McMurray together, Abdinasir among them. Whether they knew it or not, Fort Mac's reputation is not just for fast money, but for drugs. In recent years, more and more Somalis have become players. So the Somali kids, are they the power behind all of this, or are they just the kids who are out there selling?
They're just the kids trying to make money.
So they're being controlled by other people?
Not controlled. They choose to.
But the trade they choose is a dangerous one, as some of those Jamestown kids were about to find out. Just weeks after he arrived with the Toronto group, 20-year-old McFrin Patty was shot and killed.
They were all out there at one point, all the boys in our area and whatnot, and he ended up getting murdered. And once he got murdered, everybody came back, but Abdinasir was still down there. And we were wondering why.
Even after another boy from Toronto was murdered 6 weeks later, he still decided to stay. 2 weeks after that, yet another young Somali was gunned down in broad daylight. Abdinasir's family begged them to come home. Sister-in-law Hamda Jibril.
His mother was kind of scared, telling him come back. You know what I mean? We can work something out. Once again, he's just like, no, I'm fine. I would tell you guys if there was a problem.
He assured them he wasn't mixed up in anything bad. As far as they knew, he had a job.
One time I said, what do you do? And he said, I'm working. What are you working? I'm Tim Horton, I'm working. I said, why are you working Tim Horton?
Do you think he really was working at Tim Hortons?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. That's what he said.
But we could find no confirmation that Abdinasir ever had any job in Fort McMurray. Still, he always had money, and he was always ready to share. What kind of money are we talking about?
200, 300. No.
That's pretty generous if you're working in a fast food restaurant. I mean, he was also sending money to his mother.
They'd be having a conversation, and she'd be like, I miss my car payment, and then out of nowhere, he'd be calling her and say, hey, pick up this money from Money Mart. And then she'd be like, what are you doing? Sending me money. He's like, don't worry, just pay off your car payment. You know, like, he would just make sure that she had nothing to worry about.
In February, 2 more Somali-Canadians were found dead in Alberta. The growing body count demanded an explanation.
Tonight, it was murder. In less than a year and a half, 7 young Somali men had been shot and killed.
There were theories, everything from deranged gunmen to battles with biker gangs. At Halima's Kitchen in Fort McMurray, they didn't know what to think.
They said the kids don't want to work. We went to school, we did everything. No guidance, no parents. We came from all the way back home. We're struggling. You know what I'm saying? They're so
But
black.
slowly, even the older generation began to understand that the murders were not the work of some mysterious outside force. The answers and the culprits were closer to home.
Excuse me. That's so excuse me.
No, it's okay.
As last winter turned to spring, the tension finally seemed to get to Abdinasir too. One day he announced he'd made a decision to go home. Halima's daughter, Shukri.
Oh, Auntie, I forgot to tell you, I'm going back to school. I said, what, you're going back to school? He goes, yeah, I'm going back to school. And guess what I'm taking? I said, what? He goes, power engineering. I said, why power engineering? He said, because it's only 2 years. Because by the time I'm 21, I'll have something and I can get a job. I said, then what do you think is next? He goes, oh, the dream. I said, what's the dream? A house, a mortgage, a beautiful car, a wife, a beautiful wife. He said that I can hold her. And I said, she better not be tall. He was very jokester. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he just had he had it pictured.
5 days before he died, Abdinasir showed up unexpectedly at his sister-in-law's in Edmonton.
They say in our religion that when someone's about to die, that they don't know, but their soul knows, you know, like, he was just acting like, this is the last time we're gonna see him, like, he's acted so, like, loving, saying things like, oh man, I love you guys, I'm so happy to see you guys, you know, like.
He'd driven 5 hours to get there, told them he'd done some shopping, and was on his way to the bus stop to catch the Greyhound back.
He took his brother upstairs and he said, they had a long chat and he's like, just stay, you know, like, just stay. He gave him some money and he's like, no, I don't want your money.
Who gave?
Abdinasir gave my husband money. He's like, no, it's okay, I don't want your money, you know? Just keep your money, I'm good. He's like, no, take it, please. And he just left it on the dresser.
And then he was gone?
He was gone. It just felt like that was his goodbye, you know? And we didn't even know.
This is the last photo ever taken of Abdinasir. 2 days after he emailed it to his mother, he was dead. On the evening of April 20th, he ate dinner at Halima's kitchen. At about 8 o'clock, he phoned his mom, told her he was with a friend from Jamestown, Crescent.
I say, okay, take care, guys. Don't go outside. And they say, okay, auntie, we take care of ourselves.
By midnight, he was at his apartment. Looking back, Fadumo says there was something strange in her son's voice that night, an uneasiness.
Me and mother, I feeling my son. He's not minister happy. I think he afraid. And I say, Abdinasir, when you come back? He say, Mama, I come back this week.
That was the last thing he ever told her. What happened next is now at the heart of the RCMP's investigation. The police won't confirm anything, but the family tells us they've talked to that friend who returned with Abdinasir to his apartment that night. He tells them that what ended as a murder began as a robbery.
There were 3 of them, according to the friend. They arrived in the early hours of the morning.
3 people that he wasn't really close to. And they were probably planning on having a long night, and he wasn't having it. And his friend, his actual friend, said he was gonna get some food.
The friend left, and according to what he later told the family, Abdinasir went to bed. What follows is what Hamda has pieced together since.
So I believe they woke him up, told him he had no money, probably buying himself time until his other friend came back. So they said, if we don't eliminate him, then there's going to be a lot of people after us.
Several hours later, the friend returned. Abdinasir was on the bed, a bullet hole in his head. He called 911 and fled. That evening in Toronto, police arrived at Fadumo's house.
And then they say, your son is passed away. They tell me that night.
What did you think?
I don't know. I was so shocked.
Do you know what happened that night?
I don't know. The time he talked to me, he's afraid. Maybe someone he...
Did he tell you he was afraid?
He don't tell me, like he say, Mom, I come back to you. I don't want to hear. He say, I know my son, he have a problem that night.
When we come back.
We know the person that shot, that pulled the trigger. Government name and everything.
The crime scene, the place where Abdinasir Dirie died, marked the 5th murder of a young Somali in Alberta in just 7 months. Abdinasir's friend, Shukri.
Were you surprised?
I was. In a way. In a way I was surprised, and in a way I wasn't, because that's how all the kids end up. You hear every day somebody's dead. Somebody got shot.
And yet police seemed powerless to stop it. In large part, they said, because the community was unwilling to help.
People want to know, they want to solve these things, right? The police want it solved, the community wants it solved.
Yep.
Why can't the community share the information with the police now?
This is where the term snitch comes in.
What happened when you roll through my hood? Start from left to right, nigga. You gon' get it, nigga. That's what it is.
In this world, to be a snitch is to make yourself a target, and you don't have to run with gangsters to get the point.
It's like practically you're telling on somebody, that's what they're saying. That peer pressure. It doesn't matter how old you are, how old you. They're afraid for their own lives.
Legitimately afraid? Should they be afraid?
They are. That's the truth.
Iman and Hoda are afraid, and that's what keeps them quiet even in Jamaica. They've sworn never to reveal the identity of the Toronto drug dealer who sent them here.
So even though this man set you up and got you into this situation and has caused you all this trouble and grief, you're not prepared to tell the police who he is?
I'm afraid.
You're afraid to tell the police?
Yeah, I'm afraid.
Why?
Because knowing that one of our loved ones died from something that we don't even know what he got himself into, and for us to say something and if something happened to us, I don't want to lose nobody in my family.
And yet, despite all of that fear, Abdinasir's family has gone to the police with the information they received about his murder.
We personally called them and said, we know the person that shot, that pulled the trigger. Government name and everything.
Well, how does anybody know who pulled the trigger? Because there were only 3 people there that night. There were no witnesses.
Right. One of those 3 people talked.
So everybody in the street knows.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows who it was that was there that night, who it was that pulled the trigger.
Even the police know. they have fingerprints. Nothing has been done.
What reason do the police give for nothing
We're
being
looking
done?
for more evidence. What more evidence do you need?
Okay, guys, go down, please.
The family says the key is to crack some of the young men Abdinasir was running with in the months before he died. We recently caught up with a couple of them in Fort McMurray as they pleaded guilty to unrelated counts of theft and assault. They wouldn't talk to us, nor would the Fort McMurray RCMP. Not about Abdinasir, not about any of the murders they have so far failed to solve.
There is a hostility that exists between the police and those communities.
Abdi Fattah Warsami is a community activist in Abdinasir's old neighborhood.
There is a perception within the police force that if a kid or a person was dealing with drugs, then pretty much, nobody cares.
They deserve whatever happens.
Exactly. Most of them were executed. They were killed in an execution style. Clearly, the community, the parents of these young men, they deserve better answer than that. Police should do a better job than that.
To some, Abdinasir Dirie may be just one more dead would-be gangster. But he was also a son and a brother, and to this day his family refuses to believe he was anything but the good kid they knew.
I mean, look at Hamda. Let me play devil's advocate here, and I say this with the greatest respect, but he gets picked up with a bunch of guys on cocaine in January.
Right.
In the days before he dies, he shows up in Edmonton, comes in and out in a day. Now, was he there to pick up drugs and take them back? Who knows? Rumors go around that he's got lots of money. These guys want to rob him, in your understanding of events, because rumor has it that he's got lots of money. If he'd just done a drug pickup, he probably did have lots of money. There's a logic there, right? That somebody who is completely dispassionate about this might put all of those things together, and in their mind they would say, yeah, that's what he was doing. Of course that's what he was doing.
Maybe if you didn't know him. If you didn't know him, then maybe. You would think like that, obviously. But if you personally know the person and you've been through thick and thin with this person, no.
There's a little part in your mind that says maybe this good boy.
He's a good boy.
But maybe he got involved with something bad.
Yeah, he's a good boy. I can friends. The problem is if he don't do nothing wrong, friends they do something wrong and he's with them. That's the problem. Yeah.
I don't know if it's an ignorance of what their children are really doing, or just a willful blindness of what their children are doing. But invariably, the story you get from the family is he was such a good boy.
Well, this is where I say stop. Put stop to your stability. You need to wake up and smell the coffee.
As tough as he is on the police, Warsami is just as hard on his own community. As an organizer who works with kids, he says parents have to start stepping up and getting involved with their children. 20 years after they arrived in Canada, he says Somalis have to accept they're not in Somalia anymore.
A lot of parents, fathers in particular, would love to pressure their sons to carry the Somali culture, and not realizing these kids were born in this country. These kids are Canadians. We need to adopt the Canadian way of life.
Which means what?
Which means being proactive, which means, taking the matters into our own hands, taking responsibility, making a difference in the lives of your child.
On the outskirts of Edmonton, in what used to be a farmer's field, Abdinasir Dirie is buried. In all, there are 18 graves of young Somali men, most of them from Toronto. Their families couldn't afford to fly them home. At one time, each represented the hope of a new generation of Canadians, but not one lived to be 30.
This generation's disintegrating bit by bit by bit. I believe so. I think most of the people that I know that were in our generation, most of them are gone. They're not here.
They've left. They've
They're
emigrated?
gone as in they're not alive. They're not here.
They're dead.
Yeah. And I know our parents been through a lot to bring us where we are right now. And my mom, knowing that I put her through this is the worst thing I could ever put her through.
My mom is going crazy back home. My dad, I don't know what to do. I hate this place. I just want to go home safe now. I hate this place. I wish I could go back in time and just say, you know what? Take her 2 tickets. I don't want nothing to do with you.